Anyway, I'm going to read my reply now. This is what I replied to the tweet. I said, Bishoujo didn't just fail. Many staff and leadership failed Bishoujo. I'm not going to name any specific people for the record. I don't want to point fingers at anyone right now. There's more information that's needed. And even then, I don't know if I want to be the one worrying about that stuff. But I just want that to be known. That this is not just one person. It's impossible for this to have been one person and no one else knew, right? Do I think some of those other people maybe had the power to do anything? Probably not for a lot of them. You know, that's really case by case for each person. But, you know, I think we shouldn't pretend that he's the only person in this situation, right? I said, instead of using talent money on operating costs, the company should have shut down or at least informed us, but you instead used us as cash cows to keep things afloat while keeping us in the dark. Again, this was a conscious decision. You chose to keep the expensive sinking ship going and felt it was fine to keep paying out to staff you were friends with instead of putting talent first. You made it abundantly clear that you're okay with not prioritizing the debts owed to the talent who made this company what it is. Again, this was a conscious decision. While saying you will take full responsibility is the correct thing to do, I also think there are many others in the company without the same positive intent as conveyed in this message. Again, these were all conscious decisions. In every leadership or staff call I had, you sat back and didn't say much while you had other staff members that were clearly the ones doing the actual work be the ones to speak. Again, I sat in meetings with people, or some of them weren't just me, were other members as well, hearing talk about a lot of these things. Maybe not to the extent that we know now, obviously. A lot of this is newer information, some of the recent stuff, but knowing that there were issues, bringing up concerns, there were other people answering our questions. There were other people who were sitting there talking to us about our concerns, so they knew what our concerns were. Whether or not they actually could help is a different story. Some of them just did not have the ability to do anything about that. But, you know, we did not only talk to him. There was one meeting where we did just talk straight to him. And I spoke to my own manager and some other people in the company very clearly about all the things that were told to him in that meeting. So more information from my end was shared. And then I said, we know which leadership worked on our contracts. He did not sit there and write them, for the record. We know which leadership constantly sat in VC playing games with staff instead of working on time-sensitive tasks for events and debuts. This is something that I brought up multiple times. There were staff members that I couldn't get a hold of at times, or were supposed to be working on a thing and I knew it was taking time. And I mentioned something to someone else who was also NDA'd, and they said, oh, a couple of names have been in VCs playing nothing but certain games all day. And I said, can you show me proof? And they would check in throughout the day and send regular screenshots going, yep, still in VC, yep, still screen sharing this game. You know, do I think people should be allowed to play games? Sometimes, absolutely. But when people are waiting on some shit, come on. When you're getting paid as a full-time employee, when funding, we're owed money. Funds are getting paid for you to sit there and do that. I brought this up. And said, this is happening. You have full-time employees doing this. And this is without me knowing that the company was so in debt. I was just bringing it up because I was like, yo, you got workers doing this? And one of my complaints at the time was just, I don't feel like I get this many full-time employees worth of support for all of us. And I'm noticing this as well. This is a problem. It was me pointing that out. This wasn't even about the money at the time, you know? And I was aware of this, and I made people aware of this many, many, many months ago. Continuing, there's 2 more lines. I said, we know which staff consistently leaked information about talent. Yeah, several of us had our trust breached so many times. A lot of my projects were getting talked about at events because I would have a friend message me and go, oh my God, I was at this event and I heard about this thing. That's so cool. And I would go, what do you mean you heard about that thing? This is only something that I discussed in my Discord and with my own staff. And they'd be like, yeah, I saw a picture of like this merch item you got coming up. And I'm like, what the f are you talking about? And then they would tell me certain staff members' names, or sometimes they would just say a staff member showed me this thing, told me about that thing, which is terrible. There were times that some people did things physically and didn't want it to be known, that they were like going to this one dinner or something like that. That was talked about to random people that shouldn't have known. Stuff like that. Just completely breaching privacy to a horrific degree. Again, we're VTubers, right? We don't talk about this stuff. We trust our company to protect this stuff. There was one person who I know doesn't show themselves anywhere, but went to a dinner, and I heard a staff member say to a bunch of people who are not NDA'd, who are not part of this, who shouldn't have known, oh yeah, I saw so-and-so here. Why? I brought this up. Again, I want this to be known. I brought these things up when they happened, typically. I don't know who even heard about it. I don't know how far up the chain this was known. I'm pretty sure they knew, though. I brought this up, and I remember when I first joined, one person who was leaking a lot of proprietary information was taken care of, and I was glad about that, but others were not. And I wasn't even, the thing is, some of these people I liked, like on a personal level, I liked. I didn't even want them to like have anything crazy done. I was just like, can you talk to them and make sure this doesn't happen? And nothing changed. I just kept hearing this stuff all the time. And okay, last line of my reply, I said, as the CEO, you are the final check, yes, but this means that all checks before you failed to. That's it, right? And again, I wouldn't say that all staff are bad or anything like that. There are plenty of people who could not have done anything about some of this stuff, who wouldn't have known about some of this stuff, right? But there's more than one person complicit, right? I just didn't like that this statement made it look like it was one, right? And the thing is, there will be some situations where I won't be able to point fingers because I at this time do not know exactly who did what thing, exactly who said what thing, but I do know what happened and a lot of results of this. And I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like there were times where I learned more about VShojo from un-NDA'd acquaintances of mine than I did from staff themselves, because they would just like blab to everyone at times. Straight up.